Today, we talk about the power of war. W-A-R. We're going to talk about war from all aspects. And every year, in the last Q, the conversation circles back round to war, and it always has a synchronistic effect on my life, the economy, politics, geopolitics. Everything in my life shakes and rattles the moment I publicly speak about war. If we're going to be a little bit pseudo-scientific and conspiracy, the first time I ever addressed war publicly on a platform was in 2019. December. Just started doing a new way of producing content online, opened up a whole beautiful bedroom space, delivering tarot, and I dived into a very important conversation about Trump and Iran and everything that was going on, the involvement of the Labour Party co-signing and funding the war. And in that same week, my life collapsed. I lost that bedroom. I lost that accommodation. I lost that content. I went into a spiral of deficit. Life became incredibly difficult for me. I was still at university, struggling to make ends meet, balancing out the tarot and the studies, developing the business model, and then COVID hit. Then my nan died. Then my dad died. Then my grandma died. Fast forward 5 years, and now in the United States, we don't have a Department of Defense anymore. We have a Department of War. In between that window of time, I have been aware of the outbursts of war memorabilia. Can I say that? War memorabilia. Because there has been moments on the timeline where I've spoken about war on Instagram or Facebook and put a post out about it after the 2019 incident. I think I done it again in 2021. So during the Trump administration last time, real tensions, real war going on, rising in the United States, real questions around the presidency and integrity and corruption, right? Impeachments were also there. Then we came to 2021 and we saw what I would refer to as the black swan of digital finance, the rattle, the shaking, the destabilization of the digital enterprises that was or is indeed big tech before the AI boom. We move into this AI arena now with OpenAI dominating the space, NVIDIA moving forward with the chips that run the show. Although there is a fight with China at this time, a chip war with China, because China's saying we don't want NVIDIA here. NVIDIA is not welcome in China anymore. But NVIDIA is now welcome in the United Kingdom and the United States, which is exactly why NVIDIA is not welcome in China anymore. Separation and divide, war is rising. I don't want to be on the Pete Hegseth bandwagon, but I feel like I do want to deliver a epic speech like he did. I loved his speech. I love people. I love life. I love communication. I love ethnographically understanding individual, community, purpose, mission, life. So I value his honesty, his integrity, his morals, his moral responsibility, and the respect he has in service to the Department of War. We'll speak a lot more about this because he has outrightly disrespected the woman, her, and he has made it abundantly clear that practices that would be DEI rich and inclusive and left positive, can we say left positive, leftist, are out of the fucking window. He has indeed gone to the far right and said, there is a war and I need the best of the best. So, fuck your feelings. And in many sectors and industries around the world, this ideology wouldn't be okay. But in the Department of War, we're at war. So everything he did say that maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I would have been livid about, offended about, in my feels about, I'm not. Because I do see war. I do understand war. I'm not scared to address the reality of war. And I say that because I have been an incredibly big fan of the Conservative Party since 2022. I'll own it. And I'll explain why today. It's very, very important that the understanding is there. Because what the Conservatives done under a Rishi Sunak government, supported by Oliver Dowden as Deputy Prime Minister, Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor, Kemi Badenoch moving around the House, taking on multiple different roles during the time, predominantly focused on trade and women's rights as well, and somewhat elements of DEI, and James Cleverly also kicking ass and having more than one role as well, and really, really pushing the collective agenda, promoting cohesion amongst the core team. What was nice about that, as that government was in power, I was rising. I was rising as a ethnographic researcher, a entrepreneur, a devout, is that even a word? Who knows? Let me know in the comments. Spiritualist, a believer in the other side, a leftist at heart, but someone who has spent the last few years gritty with the awareness of war, econophysics, agent-based models attached to that, geopolitics, the economy, and the role of globalism in all of this, meaning the world leaders, the activities of extraterritorial organizations and bodies, from World Health, which the United States threw in the skip, from the United Nations, which have been repeatedly challenged as a failing globalist network from IMF, but there are conversations to be had about companies like IBM. So let's just pin IBM here. Let's pin Hewlett Packard here. Let's pin the role of chips and the flight MH370 here as well, shall we? Let's pin the FBI and the CIA and the NSA here while we got a chance. Let's pin Snowden here too. Sorry, Snow. But let's pin Russia while we're here. Let's pin Moscow while we're here. If we're going to do that, fuck it. Let's keep latticing. Let's pin India. If we're pinning India, pin Brazil. Oh, fuck it. Pin Africa and then pin BRIC. If we're pinning BRIC, pin the Triffin paradox then. Pin de-dollarization. Pin central bank digital currency. Pin BTC. Pin Ethereum. Pin blockchain. Pin decentralization. Pin mining. We have just managed to create a pseudo-scientific, conspiracy glorified wall of pins and strings. We are indeed the psychotic meme of the crazy conspiracy theorist with a lot of different moving particles. War. The cat is in agreeance. So it is worth acknowledging as we step into this time capsule that is teleporting us into the new world of 2026, that things are going to be different. And it's never easy for me to come here and be the deliverer of the war testimony. But it's not easy for me to sit with awareness and not say anything about what's really going on. So we're going to talk cyber war, we're going to talk civil war, and we're going to talk war. Economic war, war of all kinds. If a war is missed in discussion today, please do put it in the comments, because the conversations do need to be had. As we have these conversations over here, what do we always do, guys? We pull on the left and we pull on the right and we find a middle ground. Medium. I am the medium here on my ship, and we are going to sail it straight from either seas that are very, very choppy and dangerous. That's what we try to do anyway. So we will dissect the left and the right and understand where we're at, because this gives us foresight on the future and what's coming and what we most need to be aware of moving forward. It's so important that we stay conscious, woke. Oh my God, the woke mind virus are rumbling at the doorways of the right. God forbid they say something intelligent and shatter our ideologies of one way of existing, because the left are active. And let's do this. Let's start with civil war. Let's start with the US. And let's start with Antifa and let's start with Trump's administration, because that's the main issue here at this time, especially in the United States. So let's dive in and dissect that in a really healthy, analytical way that isn't judgy-wudgy and creating opposition and promoting war. We don't promote war here or promote anything negative, but we do discuss and educate and try and get clear on the perspectives, because we have to also understand what you're seeing on your screen. Fake news. Trump is the king of screaming fake news, so let's acknowledge that. So let's make sure that this space over here, Hermitology Talks, is what this channel is going to be called. We were going to have Hermitology Tales because we feel like we are often telling tales. But I'm going to pull out of that ideology and not be tarnished by the pseudo conspiracy brush and say, no, we're talking. And we're talking bumperclot facts. That's what we're talking. So we're going to stay in the know about that and be integritous about it and own the reality that we're all fucking living in. And this is really incredibly important because Antifa have been accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. The blame is there on Antifa as a network, as a terrorist cell, as protesters from the left that are not just angry or peaceful protesters, but serious radicalized terrorists. That's what the right are telling us, okay? On the right, there is a mass government overhaul where the economic equilibrium that keeps the rich the richest is in action, is the priority of the big beautiful bill. That's what the left are telling us about the right, and the right are telling us about the left. So we have a civil war, civil unrest in regard, remember this is the second assassination attempt of the year, with Trump getting shot in the ear, that shot going past Trump and hitting an innocent bystander. Someone died in assassination attempt 1. Assassination attempt 2. Never in all of my life have I seen a shot like that and been able to go, my God, this is real. And this is on the internet. I play Black Ops Call of Duty on PS4, may I add as well. No PS5 here, guys. No Xbox as well. I'm upset about these things, okay? Amazon wishlist in the comments, in the description. I'm lying, it's not, but it should be. Send me products. So, the programming of what it means to be on YouTube is pathetic. My God, you're programmed with the ethnography of a influencer. Sell, promote. Here's my Amazon wish list. Okay, so back to the seriousness of conversation today, which is indeed war. We're seeing unprecedented events. I'm just processing the image in my head of Charlie Kirk being shot. It's a lot. It plays and repeats in my mind because I've seen it so clearly and so many times on X. So I'm still trying to navigate through that and still compartmentalize the conversation that we need to have right now versus the reality that somebody's died and passed away, and oh, what on earth is this lifetime when assassinations are happening like this? And there's been assassinations in the past, but my God, this is serious. And there's so much conspiracy around this. There is so much conspiracy around Erika, Kirk. We have to speak on that because that's amping up. And the conversations around the fact that she moved her Christian corporation to Romania, which was then somehow wrapped up in conversations of child trafficking, even those ties to be made in slander and conspiracy is way too much. Not only that, her connection to the pageant that she was in, that was a Trump pageant to begin with. Once again, the wall is full of pins and strings, and I am that crazy psycho conspiracy theorist now. Because that's what we're all being led to believe. Anyone who's even having these conversations and connecting these dots, aren't you a fucking psycho? But the fractals present. The thematics are present. And we have to find clarity in this chaos. Order in this chaos. And what's beautiful about this conversation as well is because the order in the chaos is tethered to unique identity. We always come back to that. I know a lot of people do not like DEI, and I believe everything you get in life should be based on merit. But I stand on be you and believe in what you believe in and own that narrative. But make it make sense. Intellectually help me understand, overstand everything you're talking about, please. Because if you're not making sense and you're standing on a position that is weak, we can't move through that. So choose intelligence. Choose white papers, choose intellect, choose evolution. And this brings us to another element of war. Choose intellect. Choose intellect because that's a far right technique at this point. Or choose AI as a tool to do the fucking work for you. That's a far left agenda at this point. How many professionals have got the job, received the position, personal statements, assignments, dissertations, thesis, everything you could imagine now being delivered by the AI. AI hasn't got super alignment. We're going to talk a lot more about that. Or a secure net or framework around it. Sam Altman has been given the freedom to build and release models of leading AI that do create ripples around the world in relation to law, ethics, legal standing, and morality in many, many ways. For example, Sora that's just been released, Sora 2, right? The battle with the copyright around that, and suddenly now if you're unhappy with the fact that SpongeBob is taking meth, then you can choose to be removed from the list of approved IP. OpenAI is still wrapped in multiple different lawsuits about the original development of ChatGPT, the fact that it was trained on copyright material from multiple third parties that are claiming that the data's theirs, that the whole program has been built off of. One thing we can assure from a hermitology standpoint is whatever you sow into the fabric, furthermore, whatever thread you put into the needle to weave your lattice, your neural network, your Merkle tree, your Hermitian matrix, your Euclidean, your paradigm, your network, that thread will remain. And every single fucking thread in ChatGPT has been woven of copyright material. So what I see, this is the alchemist in me, this is philosophy and basic hermitology 101. Whatever bricks you use, don't build. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. Yeah? The Altman built his house upon the copyright. So every single day as we live and breathe, moving forward, the main problem he's going to face coming back round to him again and again is the copyright. His life is now given to the copyright. Go and ask Zuckerberg. Look at what Zucker's built, Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Meta. What's he built? Look at the legality of his systems in regards to the very earliest phase. He had issues with who controls the network, who owns the network, who has back-end access to the network. That is sewn in. Those are the roots to his Merkle tree, may I add. So as he grows and he evolves, the legal that he faces and the issues that he have that may now be predominantly an advertisement data driven internal war, that's the infrastructure of his design. And even worse, I don't know if he's changed his approach to Meta Llama and the fact that he built that off a pirate website, because if that is still the core thread of his machine, then that's also the pirating narrative would be in the infrastructure of design, and I can only imagine what toxicity will stem from that in the future. So it's about understanding core processes are incredibly important. I haven't publicly once spoken about hermitology's core social processes. We have CSP that will be coming out in one of our publications, us first speaking about it. So you're hearing it here first. And we'll explain what it is and how it works and why it's really important for all of this, because we're trying to reduce war, cyber war, data war, mechanical war, industrial war. I don't know what we call it. We've weavered away from the civil war in the US, and the segue was here for me to dive into cyber war, digital war. But where we really go with that is humongous, because we can talk about the internal war that companies have, corporations have. NVIDIA has an internal war. And even before NVIDIA signed on with the US in agreement in regards to like tariffs and negotiations, and then the US, same with OpenAI, there's that internal war of how much do I or do I not align to this? Amazon, all of these big companies have to make decisions about who they do or don't sign on with. And the war is in the public ledger, I want to say. It's in the agreements that we make that bring us closer or further away from others, because the skewed perspective, the quantile of the conversation, although it pulls out into regions of the world, we hone in, and that same ideology exists within the US. The same ideology exists within the United Kingdom. The same ideology exists within every single corporation. From Suchir Balaji and his desire to whistleblow on OpenAI and the things that he wasn't happy about happening there, and the fact that he didn't make it to court and he had an opposing view and wanted to be opposition towards this tech coming out, that's a left and right ideology within itself. That's internal. A HR, human resources war. And if it's picked up by the NSA and deemed a national security risk for these conversations to be even had, and for someone to whistleblow to this degree about OpenAI, which has now signed on with the Department of War, I have to say now, because it was the Department of Defense, but now they're working with the Department of War. Along with Mark Zuckerberg had a desire to work with the Secret Service, MI6, in the United Kingdom, and he was in negotiations with MI6 after he had already worked on the back end with NSA. The Snowden era happened. Not only that, the Horizon scandal is still in the wind because Fujitsu hasn't paid everybody who suffered a loss and went to jail and was accused of being a thief for their corruption, which isn't even being washed as their corruption, it's being registered as an error on the system. No, your back ends are open and you're all in the fucking back end stealing money, blaming it on the postmasters. It's not true. That isn't a simple situation. Corruption. Why was it okay for the little person to go to jail for stealing, but it's not alright for Fujitsu to go to jail? That makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's missing money. Thousands of people have done something wrong because money's missing. But money's missing in this giant conglomerate isn't really a factor in that. No, it's just a glitch. It was just an error. It wasn't an error when these people were sitting in the cells. It wasn't an error when these people were losing their mental health. Wasn't an error when some of these people commit suicide, turned to drugs, turned to drink, lost everything, went homeless, went clinically insane. Wasn't an error then. But it's an error now. It's still a fucking error now because they're still fighting for liberation and restitution. To this day, and those same systems that had this problem are still fucking running now across the whole of the United Kingdom. War. That's why it comes back. Like, I feel, who am I? Like, because every now and then the new narrative is war. War. Just put it on the war. Or put it on the war board. What department does this belong in? War. Because Pete Hegseth's right. Who am I? Who am I becoming? What's happened to me, people? I used to hug trees. Now I'm here going, Pete Hegseth is making sense. And he's shitting on women on the stage as well. How dare he? But he's actually fucking making sense. Can you believe it? Because what you have to understand... Okay, this is a nice way to go. What you have to understand, we're pulling the furthest thread of this out. We've gone in a little bit. We didn't even get to the UK yet. We'll try and do the UK after this. But let's go to the spectrum of peace versus war. That's beyond the chrono. That is the chrono. That's the furthest we can go with this. Peace on the left, war on the right. What I learned coming up here and studying all of this and doing all of this, and why I've changed so much, because peace and love and light was all I ever cared for. The more that I pushed peace as an agenda, the more I started to realize there was resistance against peace, anger against peace. I didn't understand why, but it started to dawn on me over time. And this is what's changed me at the core as a human being and made me wake up, made me a lot less naive. So we're going to use this ideology, and I want you to apply this ideology to any aspect of your life. To anyone who is in disagreement with you, to any form of opposition, for anything that isn't pleasurable and lovely and love and light and nice. Bear this in mind in every aspect of life, because this is somewhat liberatory in my opinion as well, and I guess keeps you grounded in more of a medium space, because LGBTQ is hated by many. LGBTQ is loved by many. Many people see it as a liberatory way to exist. When I see that innocent people who have never done anything wrong in their life, but they want to identify as other, or they want to come out as gay, bi, lesbian, queer, want to do that, but they're being threatened, they're being murdered, they're being attacked, they're suffering mental health, serious abuse. They're not okay. They're not okay, and they are severely suffering, and they are at high risk of mental health, suicide, murder, all of this awful stuff. I want to find peace. I want peace for them. I want them to feel safe. Naively so, because I didn't know that on the far right, the opposition of this is fuck all of them, stone them, kill them, murder them, lock them up, put them in jail. They're paedophiles, they're mentally ill, they're sick, they're disgusting, they disgust me. No idea the severity of that narrative on the far right. On the far left, I just want to be me. In other people's opinion, that person being them is worth fighting against. Yeah? So this person is happy to wear makeup and a dress. This man is happy to wear makeup and a dress. Let's use that. Another man is enraged to see a man in makeup and a dress. So this man is happy dancing around, living his best life. And this man is bubbling over with rage and resentment. Two skewed ideologies, two quantiles of existence. War. Because as one is meditating and hugging trees and happy and alive, they have no conscious awareness, potentially so, that there is an opposer here who opposes their reality. And it's fine for that one person. They'll go about their day and they don't really know that other person. Maybe that other person's seen them online, maybe they haven't. Maybe they know they're there, but that someone's built up more resentment. And then they see another man in a dress a year later. And then another man in a dress a year later. And the anger starts to build. Immigration. There's an Asian man walking around the community. Always walking a little too close or being a little too friendly or chatty to the schoolgirls. He keeps getting shooed away by the local shopkeepers and people in the area, but he keeps doing it. One man's seen that. One man's heard his daughter talk about it and say how uncomfortable she is. Oh, it's just that pervy man again. It's the pervy man at the shop again. This man, who's come here from a country where the legal age of attraction is not the same as it is in the West. He's currently seeking asylum. The British man is disgusted by this man. Goes down to the shop, knocks him about. Don't look at my daughter again or any of her schoolmates. Stay away from here. The asylum seeker seeks support from his community, tells them what happens, makes everyone else aware, 4 other asylum seeker males, about how the British man has treated him. The British man has gone back, told all of his mates, he just knocked 7 bells out of one of those cunts who came over here on the boats. War. Yeah? That's just one incident. That's just one occasion. That's just one conversation. But it ripples out. Yeah? Hatred builds, problems fester. So, we've got asylum seekers, illegal immigrants. We've got transgender men dressed as women. We've got young girls fearing to go to the local shop that's highly populated around a hotel that is full of illegal immigrants. And we've got a man who is incredibly comfortable at the sight of another man in drag or presenting as trans publicly. If these were cases that happened today, that would just be a case of today. But if that's a case of 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 80, 100 centuries ago, then where is that case study today? Where is the case file today, and how has that quantile evolved since then? War. Civil war. When these things happen, opposition forms. Yin, yang. Yin, yang. Yin, yang. The intermediary in this design is government, police, federation, agency. Yeah? The ones in the middle that take on law, that take on the authoritarian, the discipliner, the executioner. The intermediary body that has to try and keep a balance between peace and war. And the conversation on the streets at this time is two-tiered policing, police states. Palestine Action in the UK is now on the terrorist watch list. They are considered as terrorists. So anybody promoting a terrorist cell is promoting a terrorist cell. So you've got white middle-class women, white old ladies on the front line with their picot, whatever they're called, placards, that's the one, placards, screaming, Palestine, pro-Palestine. And they're getting arrested and going to jail for terrorism. This is because the intermediary has seen the skewed perspectives on the left and the right. And they've had to take a stance based on data, demographics, and the severity of the situation. I want to say the markup of the man. I've never said that. The markup of the man. So the markup of the people, the value, the degrees of freedom of that demographic, of that social group, of these people. Where do we go? And the US and the UK are great examples to use, because in the US with the Trump administration, we go direct into... There's a lot of words I want to use. You tell me in the comments. Where are we with what is the best word to describe, or the best phrase to describe the US is stance. What is the Trump administration in your opinion? Because let's go back inside the spectrum. Let's deep dive. Look how gorgeous this is. Let's do a far left and a far right on this spectrum. Because on the far right of this, well, actually, no, let's spin it. On the far left of this, the Trump administration is glorious. It's liberatory. It's rich. It's economically sound. It's America first. It's purposeful. It's powerful. It's transformative. It is what the United States has dreamed of. It is what the United States is founded on. It represents our founding fathers. That's the left. When we go into this and we go to the micro of this conversation, remember we were just at the chrono of this. We're looking at I don't want to be rude, right? But we're talking about the hillbilly white supremacist white who is very hell yeah, we want ICE to be everywhere. Hell yeah, we want this white man to really white up our nation and get things right again, like how we were raised when whites were the dominant social group here. Too many coloured people in these streets nowadays. Yeah? That is a very strong narrative. I say that because we're going to move along the spectrum. Bear with me. Don't get in your fucking feelings and cry about the truth. Do your own data research and tell me otherwise in the comments. But fucking hell. Gotta tell you the truth, people. Get a grip, right? This is not personal opinion. This is perspective that I do try to provide. But clearly, this is what I see. Yeah? And that's the left of it from the micro. Because there are a very large following. This also applies to EDL. Yeah? English Defence League, Tommy Robinson. Yeah? This also applies to Elon Musk. Yeah? When we go into the micro of the Trump administration and that side of societal normality, yeah? From the chrono, we can see that this is a big piece of propaganda around war, and it's got a real hold in place of the economic socio-economic ties, tethers, divergence, due diligence, whatever side you want to look at it from. I don't want to lose you guys. I'm going everywhere. So let's go back into the micro, yeah? there is a strong collective with that ideology, and if we're being real, and I'm taking the piss a little bit, it is the ideology of the people that do want to scream, honestly, my jeans are blue. And that blue-eyed, blonde-haired woman is the epitome of the American dream. Yeah? America first. That's a belief system in a quite large population of the United States. Yeah? The women that present in the White House with their blue eyes and blonde hair, there's a reason for that. Okay? That's the micro. That's what that collective and demographic want to see. We can say there's no racism here, and we can start moving back a bit from that and go, there's a lot of black people that support Trump, that voted for Trump. Yeah? A lot of poor black people as well, who really, really rep Trump and love Trump to pieces. We'll talk about all of that as well, because we're not just going to say there's only this. There's fractals to this in every instance as well. So we have to look at it from this standpoint. But also, we've got to quickly hone on into the UK and the EDL, because Tommy Robinson and his collective, with Katie Hopkins on board now, really sidekicking Batman and Robin vibration over there, they can say, this isn't racist, this isn't racist, this isn't racist, because if we zoom out to the war perspective, right, from the chrono, they're fucking racist. Fucking far-right cunts hate us all. Yeah? But we zoom in, well, we get to the middle part, and we go, do you know what? No, they're not all racist. They're fighting against immigration. We come in differently on that one. We coming in from the far right on that. Don't come all the way to the centre, but come in a little bit more. Then you're going to start seeing the immigration conversation and why it's so serious. Because who else is on the front line really taking accountability of the severity of this sex trafficking and grooming and sex slaves, and the government's corruption in this? Government's been corrupt. Government in certain local authorities have hidden this. They have dismissed this. They have washed their hands of this. So if Tommy Robinson didn't have the presence that he did have and push that narrative, and I'm saying this as well, as an observer running the fucking chrono on the situation, then this wouldn't be on the public agenda. This wouldn't be making Sky News. No one would talk about it. But the agenda's been forced. But what happens in these situations, because that is a great thing that we are fucking calling out these disgusting sickos. They need to get out of this country. They do. Nobody wants a whole load of sexual predators that are in their country with no British values or understanding of British equality, who are not really contributing to human flourishing and a better way of life for all of us. Period. But on that same spectrum, a lot of these fucking people are indeed racist. And the racist can now rest in this community. And they can say, no, we're not racist, we're not racist. But if we run the percentiles on the whole fucking EDL network, the most people in the network are racist. The majority of the community is racist. Period. We're not fucking stupid. You can mince it, slice it, and you can stand up and fight for these illegal immigrants and these pedophiles and sex predators and sex pests. You can fight against them. Thank you so much, because someone needs to have this on the public agenda, but still the majority of your community is racist. And that includes nigger hate. Period. Okay? And I bring Elon into that conversation as well, because he stood on the front line and said, oh, get ready to fight, violence is coming. That's not verbatim, I forgot his exact words, but he made it abundantly clear, one way or another, violence is coming to you, you need to fight. That's promoting war. The richest man in the world is promoting war in the United Kingdom. Sorry, Elon, not being rude, but that's the truth. You made it clear. Fight, motherfuckers, fight. And when we go back to Elon's heritage, where do we need to stop and pull up on the spectrum? Where are you from, homie? Oh, you're South African. One of the prime locations for fucking racism and hatred across the black and white divide. Never would have guessed this is your fucking perspective, then would I? No, of course. Because he's ingrained with the mentality of coloured people and white people needing to be separated, and his upbringing and culture makes him very, very rigid on his opinion of black and white, equality, DEI, what isn't okay. And then we can look at the spectrum of Elon, because I say this with love for Elon in my heart. But we are not going to dismiss that a white world would be his preference. He may have one black friend in Kanye, but Kanye is a nigger hater too. More time, that motherfucker hates niggers too. So you can only imagine the conversations that they have in private, where Kanye is more than happy to shit on a nigger, you know? So, like he shits on the Jewish community. There was also a very recent terrorist attack in the United Kingdom against the Jewish. War. And that same dickhead Kanye is walking around with swastika t-shirts, deliberately calling TMZ and the press so he can stand outside like a dickhead, flashing his t-shirt that he's now selling online for cash grabs, because he's a dumb arsehole who does not seem to have enough consciousness from the man he used to be. Sorry, Candace Owens, because she was out here speaking the other day. Oh, Kanye makes so much more sense now. I understand what they're doing to us. Oh, Kanye had it right all along. Candace Owens is on a one-way street to Kanye Village, and I think she should just pack up and go there at this point, because she is spiraling in all the wrong directions, and she's clearly been pushed out from where she should have been, because she should have been brought into the Turning Point, into the Charlie Kirk association, considering she really knew him. And if there wasn't a racist divide and limiting liberatory rights for black people and black women, Candace Owens would have been a main speaker at that event, and she wasn't. And now this is where the black person starts to spiral, and the lack of DEI in the fucking network, whether or not you deem her to have merit or not, can be conjecture from the fucking schematics, rubric, metrics you choose to use to define the fucking human based on your paradigm of what is or isn't the way. She's out in the cold. She's on a one-way fucking trajectory straight down to Kanye's swastika sports club. So, with that in mind, we've got a collective of people in the public domain who are open more than they have ever been to date to identify as pro-white while still managing to remove racism off the table, but advocate for white supremacy ideologies. I say this to be honest. I don't say this from a place of judgment. I am feisty and I'm making a judgment on this whole piece of content. But I'm saying it because I want it to be framed as such when we dive into these left and right conversations. I'm going to need you to see where they are skewed or where the quantile exists. Because there is no flip side of major coming together of the other race in any of their paradigms at this time, and actualization and self-realization would totally dismiss my claims of them being on the micro ideology of them within this paradigm, because there would be black present, there would be other present, yeah? Everyone goes to where they're comfortable. And even with me, and I know black people will also hate this as well from the other perspective, is I say I don't care. I clearly do care, because you can hear how passionate I am when I speak about Kanye and Candace. So I clearly do care. I care about racism a lot. I care about the problems in humanity a lot. But I don't care enough to get stuck into it and start to create a negative narrative or pin on it and hate these people. I don't. Because there's more to life, and there's more to the world, and I like to stay centre point. I like to get a clear perspective and overview of what this is presenting us. When we run the degrees of freedom on this whole logic, where are we at? And what's the rubric? What colours are going where on the Rubik's Cube? That's how I look at it. I'm so analytical. It's just fucking easier. Use my autistic neuro fucking brain and run the schematics on this whole fucking collage of human beings, and they're the truckload of propaganda that they're wheeling around with them. Because it's about wit. Have your wits about you. Have some wisdom. Because whilst they are all inherently that way, yeah, while we're here, I didn't know we were going here at all today. While we're here, we're going to have to go, we just honed on the fact that Elon Musk, South African, yeah, if you don't know about the apartheid, the history of South Africa, go and do your research and understand that Elon was raised within that. Look at Elon's date of birth, where he came from, and how that would infer on him, right? This is what we do as researchers. If you understand ecology, you understand your planet, you understand social sciences and humanities, you understand how community makes the man or woman, and where you come from influences you in major ways, yeah? There is no escaping that. I am who I am. There is no escaping who I am and where I've come from and my background. So no matter what I do, I'm always going to be coming back to that version of me that was raised in a very whatever way. That's why I am the way I am, and I'm quite feisty and opinionated. I'm here now. We can go all day. You can all dissect me in the comments. Feel free. But then we go to Tommy Robinson. Bedford. Sorry, no, not Bedford. Luton. Luton. Now, this is really funny to me, but we're going to keep it clean. Because Tommy Robinson is from Luton. Now, I make Luton jokes all the time because I'm a Londoner and I like to act like a snob. And Luton is ugh. Now, when Tommy Robinson was having his events, and I always make jokes around Andrew Tate also being from Luton, and I always cuss Andrew Tate in jokey ways to myself and go, this little tramp from Luton, please shut up. And what dawned on me, and why I had to eat my hat and my words, and why I find balance with the degrees of racism that are tethered to these people, right? To the degree of white supremacy, to the degree of pro-whiteness, why I see it and receive it and understand humanity and reality, because I understand that everything has come from a root somewhere along the line. Listen. right? We spoke about the roots, the trees, the Merkle trees, all of that kind of stuff, the ingrained infrastructure, the socio-economics. We have two very iconic individuals, Andrew Tate and Tommy Robinson, both from Luton. Ugh. Every time I say Luton, I go, ugh, yuck. And I need to stop doing that, firstly. And I need to not laugh about it, which I always do. And it's not funny anymore. Because Tommy Robinson made it not funny anymore when I watched his content coming out around his event that he done. Because the protest that he done. Because it dawned on me what being a product of your environment really, really meant. Yeah? So I come from a background of council house and single parent homes, black on black violence, Trident, postcode wars, and that's just the meso. Let's never look at the micro. Let's rub the micro out of the conversation for the foreseeable future. Thank you. So when we look at the meso of Luton, what's happened there from a very long time ago? Migration. The hatred in Tommy Robinson, the hatred in Andrew Tate, it stems from an evolutionary design implemented by government. Yeah? Now, we're not blaming government as well. We're not running all the way to the far right with a tarnished brush in our hand. Because the government have gone, right, we've got an influx of immigrants here who are seeking asylum. They need to go somewhere. They're coming from the border that is indeed on the edge of London. Where can they go? Just out of London, not too far out. We can't just send them anywhere. But we need a hub, we need a base, we need a location. Yeah? This is why studying is so important, guys. Can you see how you can step over hatred and not be ignorant and not choose to join EDL or join another opposer and start fighting and rallying? I can't put into words how much I hate Just Stop Oil. We're going to have to save another day for them because they're quiet now and I'm happy about. I can't put into words how unbearable I find them. What they need and what they want from humanity is achievable. I understand it. But have any of you really read a book? Sorry, not a book. Have any of you read a white paper in your lives? Do any of you know what crossref.org is? You lot need to go and do some research and read some white papers because you are stupid as fuck. Period. I'm not even going to go into the details of why they're so stupid. Like, there's no need to do that. Educate yourself. Because if you could understand the soil we stand on and how we evolved to where we are today, you could understand why Luton has been a breeding ground for immigrants. That's where it all started. That was one of the earliest bases. Tommy was raised in that base. Andrew Tate was raised in that base. They are two of the outliers on the plot that are radical variables because of and products of their environment on the far right. Whole other conversation to be had about Andrew. because that motherfucker is tearing women down left, right, and centre. Tearing women down. And because he's also mixed, he feels like he can shit on black people because his dad's black. So he really bashes black people. He is a nigger hater, and he loves to scream about it. And he likes to call himself a nigger too, and own the nigger narrative while shitting on a nigger. And he is gung-ho about this. He's extra at this time because he hasn't got enough visibility. So he's amping it up, hoping he can just stay present. So the stuff he says is with Tate, it's all propaganda. He's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He's not as awful as he appears to be, separate to the disgusting crimes that we're going to leave that off the table. My own personal perspectives coming through what he has or hasn't actually done. We'll let the law decide. I'm not going to go down a defamation route. But I have my own beliefs on what he did or didn't do in relation to the crimes that he has been accused of. So, on that note, no, he's not okay with me at all. I don't believe he's innocent, period. But I also don't think that the person he presents as is remotely who he is, also. But we create brands and images and we have to own it. Yeah? There's a lot of shit there. But either way, both of these people are products of their environment. And both of these people, if possible, would love to pull up and run for government and take the nation. Yeah? Trump came from, what did he come from? Apprentice. Billionaire. Trump hotels, Trump towers. Today, we have dived into the white side of the paradigm. The white side of the conversation. We haven't gone anywhere black enough, I think. Because I want to be fair on perspective. I want to talk about pro-blackness in relation to pro-white. Because we've identified pro-white. And I don't like the idea of being skewed ever. I always want to find that middle ground. And I want to feel like we're providing enough context for all of us to dive in these conversations. So today, we're going to pin this conversation as the power of war from the pro-white side. This might have to be a series of far left and far right, and we just keep weaving in and out. We'll see. Opinions in the comments. But I do want to go to the other side. But to be honest with you, and we're going to pin this here, and we're going to be honest, right? I don't know where I do go. Because today we discussed Kanye and Candace, not in the best light either for me. Where are the black people with the visibility presenting as pro-black? I think that's a really, really important question, because we've had the Black Lives Matter movement. We have a lot of active people in the field that are at lower levels. Like, for example, Jasmine Crockett has already been called out by Trump just a few weeks ago, right? And she's quite, in my opinion, a pro-black Democrat, and no one's presenting with race up front, and this war, guys, civil war, no one's outrightly presenting as pro-black at this time and screaming that Malcolm X, Martin Luther King narrative. We have the most dominant black figures are actually more black Republican, yeah. hold tight black conservative Kemi as well. Like there is shifts happening here. But this isn't a race row. I hate the ideology that I always talk about race, but I have to be honest. You know, I have to say what I see, and I have to do what I feel like my job is to do and what I'm meant to be doing. So we go here, you know, but it does feel divisive. When I first started talking about these conversations and wanted to pursue this as my philosophy for my thesis, this was just something that no one wanted to take on with me because it was just too much. So I get that in my head a little bit and try and waver between the two of where is the balance between this, because I don't want to bash whites or bash blacks or overly advocate for whites or overly advocate for blacks. I want to choose to be a anti-oppressive researcher for real. Yeah? Really, really important Potts and Brown's research from back in the day. Go and look at their white papers. First ever spoke about being an anti-oppressive researcher, and that was really empowering to me, along with ethnography. And I combined ethnography and the work of Potts and Brown's, and it was just for me to really be able to sit in any community, in any ecosystem, with any social group, and give them grace to be who they are entirely, so that the understanding is there. Because the truth of the matter is, and this is how I look at life, okay? And I'm also mixed, so I do have that Andrew Tate inspiration, even though I am majority black. My dad was mixed race, half white. Biological family, white. On my dad's side, right? My nan, white, you know? So, at the end of the day, my experience is different than someone who is 100% black. But then, where do we even go with a conversation of being 100% black? All of this stuff that I'm speaking about was really a lot for any professor or senior lecturer to process, because I was so blunt and honest in conversation. And at the time, there was no need or demand for me to even trigger or open such a can of worms. But I really do hope that every single one of those researchers and one of those individuals that just looked at me like an absolute nutcase, full-blown autistic, may I add. Yeah, we're going to sing that from the fucking rooftops now. Why fucking not? But look at Andrew Tate trying to be Prime Minister with his sex trafficking charges. Look at Tommy Robinson with the Reform Party underneath his wing, whether or not that is an outright association that is confirmed, whether him and Nigel Farage are seen as BFFs at this time. Together they are in synergy. Look at Trump and his Cracker Barrel advocacy and the whole white supremacy network of pride that is rising over there with that turning point ideology too. Yeah? Look at Elon Musk and his agenda and his narratives and his speech and his whole socio-economic background in relation to that. Because that's what you can tell about a person. Knowing that, seeing that, ethnographically understanding that, that's all you need in life. You don't need to change. You don't need to challenge. No one needs to change Tommy. No one needs to convert him. No one needs to change Trump. No one needs to do anything other than understand. Because understanding is the cure. Opposition isn't going to do anything but incentivize war. If they are peaceful with this ideology, and that is their happy place, and that is who they are, then that is who they are. And if they are not committing crime, they are allowed to be who they are. Who are we in relation to that? And as a black person, who is also mixed, but as a black person, I don't have to become a radical pro-black, but I do have to go, where is the line in my relationships with these people? Because how do they really perceive and see me? And this is important for everyone, because we're using them as the example, but in every walk of life, in every staff room, in every corporation, we have the tier of individual on board. Some of them are at the extremity of the Andrew Tate vibration, where others are all the way down to the other side. And what we do have to do is understand that actualization is the sight, is the clarity, is the clairvoyance, is the knowing. It's actualization. When people actualize, or not what people actualize, is who people really are. So if these people wanted more equality in the world for other minority groups, they would actualize that. There are beautiful people in this world that choose to actualize things, sometimes at the detriment to them, which is risky to fight for something without fighting for something publicly. Some people don't even speak on what they do. They just actualize it. And I always say, well, this year that's been my slogan, right? But I always say, just because I'm that kind of person. But I always say, if you really want to know who a person is, look at their mechanics. Look at their body of work, their life's work. You don't need to listen to what someone has to say. Rude. Listen to people. It's nice to listen. Be a good listener, guys. Come on. But the best understanding, the best overview, the best analysis of a human being is their body of work, their life's work, their mechanics for life, their system engineering of the soul, who they have been, who they are now, and where they desire to become, who they're becoming. Look at a person and their whole existence. Easier said than done if you're not clairvoyant. And this is different to all of you guys, because if you actually do come from more of a corporate business lane, then you understand why do we have CVs and resumes and stuff like that. It's important. You understand a person, understand a person's culture. Like I spoke about Tommy and Andrew Tate and where they've come from in regards to Luton and what they've been exposed to in Luton, in their communities. None of them came from well-off backgrounds. They've come from potentially council housing, low socio-economic groups in Luton that have been prime observers for their age as well, and the generation they come from, to be exposed to all of this stuff, for them to be radicalized in the way in which they have been, right? And to have the views that they do have now. And if they don't like the terms of radicalised, then I can only apologise, but we're all on the spectrum of radical or not so. And I think it's safe to say that they are radicalised and have radicalised style followings. The misogynistic way of Andrew Tate is a whole other conversation to have, and the stemming of that from the start of time. The psychologist in me, the psychiatrist in me, the alienist in me, wants to start running numbers on the whole of fucking Andrew Tate's upbringing and his relationship with his mother and his father and the racial divide that existed there as well. My dad is very similar to Andrew Tate's race and kind of upbringing, and my dad's experience and what he shared. My dad's passed on now, but his experience that he shared with me before he passed on about his upbringing really explained why his life was fucked, right? I really understood him and everything he went through and why he ended up dying of a heroin overdose. It's all explained based on his upbringing. Obviously, I'm a developmentalist and I'm a massive Darwinism, neo-Darwinism nerd. So obviously I look at those elements of existence and their key signifiers for the routes that we're going to go down in life. That's why it's important to understand someone and who they've been, yeah? The core of their existence. Childhood matters, yeah? So that statement, again, what I always say, look at somebody's mechanics. Look at somebody's body of work. Yeah? It's nice to present as lovely and beautiful on the surface in the now moment, and you can sell yourself till the cows come home. But who have you been from the start of fucking time? Because that's the truth. That's the true you. And sometimes that's what we need to do to realign when we lose ourselves, because sometimes there is no escaping the program that we came in on. Yeah? So certain people that run from their reality and their past, you can leave your past behind and never speak to anyone from it ever again, but you're still carrying markers, yeah? Traits, signifiers, elements, fractals, imprints, yeah? They're still part of your primal sketch. That shit is still locked in on your micro, meso, exo, macro, chrono, yeah? You take your system with you wherever you go, and you rub up on other systems as you evolve. Viscopiscus, yeah? Tree of life, seed of life, Merkle tree, tree of life. Lattice integration. I was just contemplating whether or not I do go down an intensive mathematical foundational route, and I just said no, we've already pinned enough to the wall today. So we're going to pin it there. And we're going to come back and we're going to dive into, and let's say this as well, because I don't like the way I said we should probably do a black side. I have concerns about having intensively white supremacist style conversations and using those words without a better ratio in mind. But what I also want to do, and what's really, really important, and what I'm frequently reminded of, or have been in the past, when connecting with Eastern Europeans, when connecting with Asians, when connecting with other demographics, they always say, but why is it always a black and a white fight, like we're not here? Yeah? Why is it always... Because the far left and the far right is black and white, isn't it? But there's a lot of people in the grey. And they feel unheard. And they've also got civil unrest in their chakras. They've all got opinions. But they're all in their own spaces. It's really, really interesting. So I guess we can't just fly all the way over to the black side in conversation, and we've started from the white. Let's go through the hues. This sounds racist as fuck. What's happening here? We've got to do this as we move into a digital realm and we all become Sims. We've got to make sure everyone has the right hue colour, or they're going to be complaining when the game and the tech's alive. You know what I mean? When the holographics are all over the place and someone's hues off, it's going to be a piss take. We still struggle to get brown skin plasters for the black people who need them. We're still using natural coloured plasters that are definitely not natural to my skin colour. Nude. Whose nude is that? Because that nude is definitely not a match for my skin tone. It's only over the last decade that we've actually got makeup that exists beyond 4 colours. 2 colours for the black person we had. Dark ebony black. And standard brown. That's it. And that is before we even start identifying all the different complexions that exist between that. Races, ethnicities, mixed individuals. So we can't just fly to the black arena and start talking about what's going on there. And I only say that in defense against anybody who was deeply offended by the white narrative and its dominance and the supremacy labels and pro-white conversation we had today, talking about the hillbilly whites, you know, and the Cracker Barrel enthusiast. So we're going to work our way there, and we're going to step correct, and we're going to lock in on every other race along the way, and we're going to look at the light and dark of it and understand humanity more and have these conversations. Why people who really made me struggle and stress about whether or not this thesis and proposal and my research question and hypothesis was right, because now, years on from that proposal that I made to everybody, civil war has increased and these conversations are now on the table. I was proposing, basically, at uni level to do what Jubilee do now. You see Jubilee do one liberal versus 20 conservatives, or like the debating situation. I was asking, basically, to do a massive body of work like that, research-based, yeah? Not just for entertainment purposes, but deep demographic understanding of that and analysis of all of that, which can now be done through viewership anyway, and through me watching that shit and running a whole meta-analysis on the whole fucking channel. Anyone watching who's a nerd out there who can do that through AI, run that meta-analysis, please, on Jubilee and all of their content based on demographic. Fucking hell, Gov's ate that already. I'll say less. Yeah, but either way, the findings from that, the findings and debate from that. Actually, there's not enough insurgents in debate in those things. It's really one-tiered and 2 people discussing. There's so much more that we needed from more intellectual souls that were actually trying to understand all this stuff in line with white papers, which can now be done with the evolution of actually Grokpedia that's supposedly coming out. That's supposed to be really good. I also created a scope of that, an element of that, but hey ho, we'll move past that. There's more than enough going on in the world for us to keep flourishing. But that was too controversial and radical, and that was dismissed because it was going to be divisive. But we're living in a divisive world, people. First time I ever got called divisive, I was rattled by it a little bit because I didn't like the way it felt initially, and then I accepted it. I go, do you know what? No, I'll eat it. I'll take it, because everyone's getting critiqued here, and I'm asking everyone to be critiqued as part of a well-being experiment. And the most critiqued thing about me was divisive, and obviously I was the one holding the data, so everyone was going to be nice about me because I was the actual data analyst, and they knew it was coming to me. It wasn't anonymous. It wasn't necessarily it wasn't anonymous, unfortunately, because someone had to actually be the intermediary in the situation. So I didn't get the benefit of really knowing what everyone really, really thought of me. But I knew I was a mental case anyway, so it was okay. But nonetheless, we're sidetracking. The divisive label stuck and stayed with me, and I own it, and I think it's important, and I understand how scared the world is of division, but that's the world that we live in, and that's the world that's rising, and that's the world that's riddled with war. And it comes down to us to not be pussies, to own the reality that we exist in. And once again, like I said, we don't need to be opposers. We don't need to get a just old fan club together to make meaningless, minuscule acts of rebellion that just slow down the fucking economy, you twats. Woosah, it's gonna be okay. So, how dare they throw soup and beans on the Queen's art in the Queen's Museum? Oh hell no. Oh hell no. Woosah, Louise, calm. It's gonna be okay, Louise. It's gonna be okay. Calm down. Why would they need to stand on a runway and block a private jet when they're not even allowed on the airspace, and the danger and the risk that they impose on their own life? Woosah. Why would they need to stand in the middle of traffic at rush hour? It's gonna be okay. But do you see the irritation of their activities? Peaceful process, passivity can also be an act of war. Psychological warfare, spiritual warfare. That is the most awfulest psychological war technique I've seen from protesters in the West, in the UK to date. That's why I'm like this, because that is civil unrest. And that is an unpeaceful process. And that is using passivity. I'm so aggressive. You can hear him. I'm not aggressive. Like, I'm not violent or anything like that. But I can be aggressive and abrasive. That's more my personality. I'm big, I'm ballsy, I'm loud. So I can't stand when people who are just as divisive or just as opinionated or just as opposing to whatever I'm saying pull up with passivity. If you want to piss me off, there you go. Take the keys to piss her off. Because no. Play passive. Keep playing passive. Go on. And that is a war technique. That is a psychological technique. And Just Stop Oil use it incredibly well. People are getting out of their cars at the middle of rush hour and just wanting to fucking batter the shit out of these people on the street. And then that means that person is... I do not condone violence at all, ever. But these people are going to jail for acts of violence. They're just trying to get home at the end of a long day. It's not funny. I have to laugh because I will cry otherwise. But it's so wrong. But like the footage of how angry the commuter's done nothing wrong. You're targeting the wrong, but there's so much wrong about your model and design. I don't even want to promote you to target anyone else because you're clearly too stupid to find your way. This isn't the answer. Write a fucking white paper. Sit down and look at the statistics and what is being proposed by every single government and what is being done globally by the activities of extraterritorial organisations and bodies to combat this oil issue. Because it isn't just about you. For God's sake, we got fucking oil wars with Russia and fucking India. Get a grip. Put your tin of beans away and get the fuck off the motorway, for God's sake. That is it. Until we are back to dive into the power of war, because this is going to be a series we now produce. And this is only part one to what is going to be very fucking explosive. Because I'm sure we are due more explosions over the next decade. So we're going to start scaling, speaking, provided I don't get cut down and they give me a full-on internet ban. And I've already got a blanket, but I mean, who knows? They might just delete my whole existence. So we'll keep playing on YouTube until it gets completely trashed, if that is the way it's going to go. And then obviously I'm still on the back end building her metaverse, so we'll be back one way or another if it does all end in disaster, like being suspended from X for merely being a bad bitch. Cybernetic queen. Can't even queen on your cybernetics nowadays. How unliberatory. I'll be back soon with more. Love and light.